What is going on, everybody? Today, I have the myth, the man, the legend, Anon TCG. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you, man?
Oh, I'm good, man. I'm great. I'm really
Good.
excited about this because I know you were sick at some point. I got sick, and I'm glad this could work out.
I get blasted all the time in my comments, but wait until all you motherfuckers have two kids in daycare and you got to suck their boogies out every goddamn morning. You're going to be just as sick and you're going to feel my pain. And one day you're going to be like, you know what? I get why Anon was sick all the time. Now I have, an almost 5-year-old and an 18-month-old. So they're getting to the age where I'm not going to have to do that anymore. But man, it is just a germ fest every single day.
I know those days, man. I got a 9 and 7-year-old. Okay, so if somebody's never heard of you, which is crazy, but let's just pretend they haven't, who or what is Anon TCG?
I'm just a random dude. So I grew up playing Magic. I mean, I'm in my mid 40s at this point. So I grew up in 93 and 94. I was in middle school, right? So I always loved Magic. Went to college, stopped playing because, in college, you're either playing nerd games or you're chasing tail, right? I did the latter.
Hey.
So, you get into the professional world of your career, whatever, you start to build some, some wealth. And it's like, okay, I have some free time and play Magic again, right? So I never really played it, but I got back into collecting. And this was probably 2019, right before COVID. I got so frustrated because they kept reprinting cards and just smashing my value. So I'm like, you know what? Screw these guys. I'm gonna look at Pokemon. And I didn't grow up on Pokemon. I wasn't on TV growing up or anything like that. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. So, I just looked at the numbers of Pokemon. I'm like, you know what? This is kind of interesting. So I started to get into it. And really what I did was like, I kind of made friends with an LGS, after like the third attempt of trying to have a conversation with folks. And they just looked at me like I'm retarded. And I was quite honestly just trying to figure out a way to get cheaper boxes for my own collection. If I'm buying multiple cases, whatever, $5, $10, whatever, I don't have to go through retail or anything like that. I built a relationship with a really, really good LGS in 2023. And, there were some unfortunate events with the LGS where, we kind of delayed the rollout. But then going into mid 2024, I had the idea of, maybe I can just buy, bulk Pokemon through those guys and sit on it. And when the market turns, make a little bit of a go of it, just hold it and sell it. So, first order was Stellar Crown, right? Ended up getting a couple cases, but I actually had Southern Hobby call me up and say, "Hey, we had an account that just defaulted. They don't want their boxes. I can get you 400 boxes of Stellar Crown." So I'm like, "Holy shit! Okay, how am I going to pay? How am I going to drop 40 grand? Like, because they wanted payment like the next day." So I figured that out. And it's like, okay, well, I have 400 boxes of a set that's doing nothing. I think I paid like $92.50 or something like that. And, nothing really happened there. So, my plan was just to sit on it. So as time goes by, we start to get accounts with a couple other distributors because, the LGS only had, two accounts or something like that because they're pretty small at that point. So we ended up getting an account with PhD. With Peach State. So the same shit happens, right? So Surging Sparks, we place the order for that. And at that point in time, everything was a dumpster fire, right? The set was still, pre-selling for $100, $105. So rep calls up and he's like, "I got good news for you." I'm like, "Okay, great." He's like, "Well, I thought I was going to get you 6 boxes. I got you 400.
Wow.
I'm like, "What do you mean you got me 400? He's like, "Yeah, I got you 400 boxes because, nobody wanted it and, you want to make a splash. So here you go." And again, this is like September, October of 2024. So it's like a little bit over a year ago. And I'm like, shit, how am I going to pay for it? So, you figured out it. So I'm sitting on 400 boxes Stellar, 400 boxes Surging Sparks. I started to see the market turn a little bit. Really didn't have any business concept at that point in time other than, just kind of buy the product, sit on it. And then, slowly got into the, okay, well, if we can buy it 90, 92.50, whatever, just trying to shave 5 percentage points, 10 percentage points, just kind of looked at like the Forge and Fire model where, it's absolute bargain basement and quickly realized that it's not great for Pokemon. It works well for Magic because you could just churn dollars and build spend. But then all of a sudden the market started turning and Surging Sparks started to go crazy. So I had recalled that Forged and Fire through their banana stand, whatever, they started running these troves on TCG Player where they were selling like play boxes or set boxes or whatever the hell it was at the time for like 15% cheaper than everybody else. So I said to my my business partner of the LGS, I said, that's what I want to do because it's great marketing, right? It's free marketing.
Right.
You may lose a couple bucks, but it's literally priceless because everybody talks about banana stand at that point in time. So out of the blue, I got an email from my TCG player rep. I didn't even know I had one. And she's like, yeah, I'm your rep, whatever. And I've never sold a whole lot of singles. I have a pretty big vintage collection. So I sold probably $15,000-$20,000 worth of cards. This is over like all of the first half of 2024. And she's like, oh, how can I help your business? So I just jumped on a call with her. I said, hey, can you put me in touch with the person who runs these sales? Because, I have a bunch of Pokemon boxes I'd love to do. And she's like, oh yeah, here's so-and-so's name, number, he's expecting your calls. So
that's cool.
I made the call, and this is like October, right? And I have no idea what the fuck's going on in the world at this point. Like, I'm just, trying to figure out the rules of engagement. He's like, yeah, your timing's really, really good because we're running our troves. We're working on setting them up for Black Friday or Cyber Monday. He's like, what do you have? And I'm like, well, I have a couple hundred boxes of Surging Sparks or of Stellar Crown. He's like, yeah, not really interested because at the time it was still flat. I'm like, at the time, I ended up with like 600 total boxes of Surging Sparks. I'm like, I have 600 boxes of Surging Sparks. Yeah, I would love to move them through you guys. And I think at that point in time, the boxes had gone from like $110. They were like pushing up, I think 185 at that point in time. And he's like, wait, you have 600 boxes of Surging? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you want to sell them here? I'm like, that's why I'm fucking talking to you, dude. Yeah. Like, yeah.
Why else am I calling?
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, great. He's like, I'll call you back. I'll call you back in a few hours. He calls back 5 minutes later. He's like, I'm going to send you a contract. I work out the deal, whatever. And we set the price at $179.99. And he's like, we'd like you to be 10% below market, whatever. And at the time, I think the market was probably 190, but the market was going parabolic. So I'm like, hey, if the boxes keep going up, what can we do? He's like, we'll cross that bridge when we come for it, which is, it's code for you're stuck at the contract price, and that's it. Long story short, we get into the sale. Everything sells out in like fucking 15 minutes, like just blow through everything. And these guys are obviously taking a chance on like a no-name group that doesn't have a whole lot of sales history. And they're like, yeah, we're going to put you on the front page, whatever, but make sure you ship the shit. And we're obviously not going to pay you until everything gets delivered. And I'm like, that's fine, whatever. So we did the sale. We sold everything. At that point in time, the boxes were like $225. So yeah, if you recall, everybody on YouTube is like, Anon's a fucking idiot and this and that. And he left so much money on the table. But as we're going into the sale, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to start a Discord, and let's see if we can piggyback it into, some sort of sales platform. Because at the end of the day, you have really your supply chain. So how much product can I get? But you need the sell-through channels to make sure you can sell all the product, because if there's any sort of imbalance there, you're kind of screwed there, because you either have distributors who are giving you too much product and you're crunched for liquidity, or you have a bunch of customers screaming at you and saying, where's my fucking product? And that's actually an even bigger problem. So we ended up selling through everything, build out the Discord. Yeah, my YouTube videos are still terrible, but quite honestly, the reason why I keep them a little bit more detailed mathematically is because the audience that like Team Rocket Joey has is great, but they don't have any fucking money, right? They're just there for entertainment. I want people that actually take this seriously, that aren't going to fuck around and buy like a box or two. That they're actually a little sophisticated when it comes to Pokemon, right?
Dang, TRJ, Anon said your viewers are broke, man.
Nah, yeah.
That's my boy. Keep going.
No. It's gonna. I can't wait. What's your name? Strawberry Pokemon is gonna do, or whatever name is gonna do a video on me saying, oh yeah, Alex 2.0. You just called all TRJ's guys. Yes.
I find her content entertaining.
I do as well. I don't have time to watch all the different videos. So you watch it because you enjoy it. Yeah. I enjoy it. I don't have a chance to watch it, and a lot of the stuff is super repetitive at this point. It's like the clickbait thumbnails just drive me nuts. Like selling my collection, and it's like, it's Alex. It's like, you're not selling your collection. Like,
you're talking about Nostalgianomics?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I get it. It's for views, but it's like it drives me nuts. So anyway, the entire business model just kind of evolved over time to, I think initially we charged $3.99, and it wasn't the fact that it was any sort of monetary value. It's just like a step that somebody has to take just to say, I'm not going to fuck around with this. Like, I'm willing to put my credit card there and actually like cross that line.
This is for Discord?
And yeah, for Discord and for product and stuff. It's worked out really, really well. And the reason I say that is for a while we had some product up that was up just open order. And I mean, the amount of fraudulent orders and scams and shit like that, they're through the roof. They're absolutely through the roof. And I would say more often than not, like Shopify or Square, whatever site you use, they flag it appropriately, but sometimes they just miss it. Having a paywall, it basically saves you from all of that. It's had some unintended consequences that have been extremely positive, but I mean, we've just continued to grow the allocations and continue to grow Discord. And, we cut our subs off at like 500 total. That's across premium and elite. And the whole purpose for that is just to let the allocations catch up so we can start offering you guys cases, which is what we're going to do for Ascended Heroes.
Really? You can offer cases?
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we'll be able to do ETB cases, text sticker cases. Now it's 2 waves. Wave 1 and wave 2. I think we're gonna do the sale separately this time. There's just too much unpredictability between when the Pokemon company says they're going to ship and when they actually ship.
Yeah.
And then some of it's with the distributors as well. So we'll do it that way. But yeah, I mean, everything's been really, really great so far. Everybody's been super supportive. And look, YouTube's a lot of fun. Sometimes it's work where it's like 9:30 at night. I've just gotten the shit kicked out of me at work all day. I got kids screaming, wife screaming, and you still have to do a video, but it's fun. So anyway, that is basically it in a nutshell.
Yeah, that was a good introduction.
Just real quick, and I was laughing about this because every time I see Pokémon talk about that one time that he just got singled out by 2 guys, I'm assuming it's because he was talking about what he was paying for Paradox Rift, which was, there's an $85 sale and an $87 sale. That is actually the inspiration for Anon TCG because all these guys put their face out there and they speak freely. And I swear to God, like Brian is 100% correct. Everybody from
Shout out to Brian.
Dude, everybody from distribution watches this shit. All the reps from TCG Player watch it. Everybody watches it. And, I think, not having a bullseye on my forehead is a little bit of an advantage. But yeah. So thank you, Pokey. You were actually the person that made me go completely anonymous just because I didn't want to go through the same shit that you went through.
That's crazy. When I had him on the stream, he told me a little bit about that. Not like you in particular, but the people that were hating on him. So throughout the bear run and definitely like 2024, he was buying things when nobody wanted it. And the people that were hating on him, they stopped. So I've seen some of their YouTube videos. It's funny because I watch so many content creators. I see their point of view. And then when like Pokémon brings it forward, I'm like, oh, that's what he's talking about without saying their name.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were like, why is this guy in a basement getting all the allocations? Yeah, I had to stop what I was doing because I couldn't sell it. But come on, we're like an LGS. And so like, that's why he kept getting fed. And they stopped getting fed because they gave up when the times were hard, I guess.
You would actually vomit if you heard this because I talk to my reps about these stories all the time. Like a lot of these LGSs, like not only will they not buy shit that has no value, like with Magic, they'll order 100 collector boxes and no play boxes, and then they'll bitch and moan because they don't get free money. Like it's just the level of sophistication in these LGS owners is just so pathetically bad when it comes to business because they like playing games.
I see.
And it's mind blowing because they don't have a business mindset. And to Brian's credit, he does.
Yeah. Shout out to Brian.
Except for the Japanese. I disagree with him on that, but that's
okay. Elaborate real quick. He's gonna see this video. I want to know.
Nah, that's okay.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. I have a question.
Sure.
Roughly, if you can tell us, it doesn't have to be exact. What would you say like the size of the operation is? Anon TCG's size. Are we talking like close to Rudy levels? Are we talking like what size would you say?
I don't think anybody's close to Rudy level at this point. But no, look, we run a 5,000-6,000 square foot warehouse. It is absolutely packed right now. I think over Black Friday we had 1,400 orders that took forever to get out. And look, we deal mostly in sealed. Singles are a pain in the ass. The risk reward is not great. The cost to ship a single isn't that much different than the cost to my labor costs, I should say, to ship a box. And the margin is a little bit higher, at least right now. That will revert at some point in time. If I told you the revenue off camera for the year, you would probably not believe me. It's been good.
Good, man. That's good to hear. So I definitely wanted to just say to you, and like I get a lot of really all my information from the internet as someone who doesn't have distro. So like when you mentioned earlier the way you do your videos, I find it fascinating because I'm like, oh, okay, this is what's coming out. And for real, when you upload your video, you're probably the first person I'm getting any of that information from. No BS, no people like me, Timmys that don't know what the heck they're talking about. So I love hearing it from you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's interesting. And we were talking before we started here that every one of the distributors are different. Some of them pre-allocate and some of them don't. So like Magazine Exchange, they generally pre-allocate everything before you even know, like before everybody else. GTS does the same. Mad Owl's hit or miss, where with Ascended Heroes, they were the first to market, which actually shocked me. But normally with everything else, they're a little bit behind. PhD is always last. Alliance was last for a while, but they've started to catch up. I think they just had a little blip there with their Chapter 11 sale to Universal. Southern's kind of right in the middle, and then ACD's right in the middle as well. A lot of the early information I get is across Magazine Exchange, GTS, Mad Owl, and then speaking to ACD, Southern, PhD. Not so much Alliance. I have a good idea of what the purchase orders look like from the company and what it is relative to prior sets. So okay. You always have an idea of what the total addressable market looks like, assuming they're not lying to me, right? And they have no reason to. What it doesn't factor in is how many new accounts they've taken on. And one thing that has been a little eye-opening, I guess, is in the last couple sets, distributors have really appeared to have made a concerted effort to make sure that all the new accounts are at least getting like a case, like the LGS stores, all the OP stores, they're getting, probably more than what their spend would support.
That's good. People can play the game. Okay. Biggest thing I've heard your name everywhere, Anon. Are reprints coming in Q1? Do you still think that for 2026?
Do I still think that? I don't know. Little Birdie told me there was a news article today about the Pokemon Company and Millennium Printing just signing a massive lease for expansion in North Carolina. Yes. Reprints are coming, and that did not come from distribution. But yes, they are theoretically in the process of printing a massive amount of booster box packaging for your Mega Series sets that are presumably going to be released the end of Q1, maybe early Q2. But I think, one of the things I've been consistent with saying, and this goes back to May 2025, there's an offsite with Pokemon and all the distributors, and the message to distributors, because at that point in time, they couldn't get enough product, right? That's kind of when everything was super, super tight and Millennium Print Group, even though it's a wholly owned subsidiary of the Pokemon Company, they are a for-profit business. So they have their own customers, right? They're printing packaging for a lot more than for Pokemon. The message was until June, July of 2025, they were dead in the water. They didn't have any additional print capacity. And then they migrated UK printing to the Netherlands. So to backtrack, for the longest time, they printed all the English European boxes in North Carolina, shipped them over there. Then they opened a plant, I think it was 2022 in the Netherlands, where they were printing just the specialty cards in the US. All the junk was printed over there. And now they've migrated in 2025, all of the printing for all of the English non-UK cards to the EU. Because just think about the VAT tax and the tariffs and crossing borders and stuff. It's a little bit of a logistical mess. And UK is not part of the EU. For those of you,
yeah, they left, right?
Yes. So UK cards were printed in the US until June, July. That migrated over and that opened some of the print capacity. And I think that's why we saw the pretty sizable reprints of Surging and Twilight ETBs from that facility. But they said that early Q1 of 2026 is when they have a lot of purchase orders rolling off the books and they can really free up some significant capacity. And again, we're starting to see it with the increased print runs and, all the ancillary product. I mean, we're getting EX boxes out the ass. I mean, look at the UPC quantities that are out there for the Mega Charizard. Like I said, the Ascended Heroes numbers are large. Now it's staggered and it's a little delayed, but those large numbers aren't necessarily increases with Southern. They're with some of the other distributors.
Okay, so that's something to consider, because a lot of people that I hear talk about Southern.
Well, I mean, look, Southern is the 800-pound gorilla in the space, right? I believe they are the largest at this point, and they're also a little bit less stringent than the rest. I mean, they accept non-brick and mortar accounts, and Pokemon doesn't require brick and mortar, so it's not really a big deal there. So, there's a lot of folks who have Southern accounts. They've built them over time, and that's all they know. And look, Southern is great. Southern has been great to us. It's one data point in a much larger economy of data points.
That's a good way of putting it. Okay. What percentage of people on the internet, at least YouTuber wise, do you think knows what they're talking about?
That's a loaded question.
Like Pokemon. Well, if you had to think of a percentage, I go out there and I'm like, hey guys, reprints, what do you think? most people load of crap? Or
I think everybody knows what they're talking about. The question is what are they actually talking about, right? The beauty of YouTube is that you don't need a resume, you don't need an education, you don't need any sort of prerequisites. You just need a mic and a camera and you can talk. And it's great. The worst part about YouTube is you don't need any of that, right? So, anybody can make videos and build an audience, and it's a great part about YouTube. But it's ultimately up to the user to kind of filter out what's bullshit, what isn't bullshit, and that's really just something that gets built over a period of time and a body of work, right? So, look, I have no doubt everybody knows what they're talking about to a certain extent. I'm not the judge, jury, executioner here. I'm just sharing the information that I know, and sometimes I don't share the information I know for various reasons. So.
Hey, that's fair. Who are your favorite content creators?
Favorite content creators? I actually enjoy the Monday Pokémon podcast. It's gotten a little long, but I do enjoy that now. It got a little annoying with the spoofs for a couple of weeks in a row when it was like the same thing over and over again. But it's good. I'm a little surprised that Eli doesn't know the sets a little bit better. But I mean, if you're inundated running the actual business, I get it. But that one's super entertaining. I mean, Rudy, obviously. I watch all the videos. The interesting thing about Rudy is he's always talking his book. He's like, you turn on CNBC, you see any one of the talking heads on there, and they all pay to be on it.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they do. I actually had a good buddy where his wife was the person who's coordinating that a couple years ago. But yeah, they all pay to be on there to get their name out there. So Rudy's always talking his book, so you have to filter through it a little bit. But look, I enjoy Nostalgianomics. Generally speaking, he knows what he's talking about. He's very, very consistent with what he says. He did make a comment the other day about he's fine if prices go down because my profit margin goes up. And I would dispute that because your hands only move so fast when you're doing rip and ship. So whether you make $2 and it's 50% or $4 and it's 50%, I'd take the $4 a pack. But no, he's good. He's good. I think Brian has some good videos. He has some troll videos that are whatever. But when you have 60, 70,000 viewers, you have to kind of hit a couple different targets there.
For sure. I definitely agree. Like, I watch a lot of Pokemon every Monday because like same thing issue, like why I watch you, right? Because the distro thing, like there's only so many people that have distro. There are definitely other people, shout out to everybody who does have distro, but they're much smaller, right? So like I'll ask them, but they don't really know. They're not like really in the know as much as like someone like you and Eli is. That's his name, right? Eli?
Yeah.
I always call him Pokemart. So
well, I enjoy it too because I know a bunch of people that are in the program. So I always get to triangulate with, is what he's saying really what's going on the inside? And it is. I mean, he seems like a really genuine dude, which is
cool.
But I think the difference with me is I'm always calling distro to ask questions and just kind of probe for information. Whereas I think a lot of folks are just waiting for the information to come for them or to them. So, the second I got my first Ascended Heroes allocation, I'm calling all my reps and saying, hey, what's it look like? What do the numbers look like? Not my numbers per se, but what does the total population of what you're getting look like? Because once you have some idea, you can kind of formulate a plan and strategy going forward with, I can estimate what I'm going to get. But ultimately, is the market going to get smashed in wave one? Is it going to get smashed in wave two? What are the prices going to look like? And then you start to put together strategy just for go to market or, what do you sell? What do you hold?
I like that. Okay. If someone wanted to be like you, they're watching you, they're like, they've seen your shorts of your 10 pallets, which I've seen so many pallets in some of your shorts. It's crazy looking at your warehouse. They want to be like you. Do you have any tips for them?
I think the first tip is don't quit your day job. Because until you have scale, you're not going to generate a whole lot of money. And any cash that you're going to generate is just going to go to growing inventory. I mean, even now when the margins on this stuff are absolutely through the roof, you're just constantly buying inventory. I mean, a lot of the pallets that you saw, I mean, they're commander decks for Magic. And, when Magic has a commander deck reprint, the price is never going to go lower than that, right? They may print it again. It may get smashed again. Dollars for something that doesn't have much, if any, downside, they just bleed up over time.
Would you say your Magic allocations help you get Pokemon, or is those two separate things?
It depends. It depends on the distributor. So, you talk to Southern Hobby, they're going to tell you Pokemon's Pokemon, Magic's Magic.
Okay.
But there's a point where you get to a certain scale where it does help a little bit. PhD claims they're blended. I haven't really seen the math to prove otherwise. GTS is based on spend per game. Alliance is based on spend per game. But then you get to some of the other guys and, it's everything blends a little bit. So that the one thing I will say is, generally speaking, there's rules for the massive stores and there's rules for everybody else. I assure you, I am still in the everybody else group. But some distributors, it's the rules are sort of kind of all the same, and the way the allocations work are, pretty pro rata based on spend.
Okay, I have a question because I've heard Brian say this from Pokey that someone has hit him up before, more in the crazy bull run. I have $100,000. Somebody told you that I have $100,000 on. Can you hook me up? What are you gonna say to that person?
It's funny because when we were really starting to push with distro, I think they hear that story so many times they just assume it's bullshit until proven otherwise, which is really funny, because one of the things they'll do is they'll give you an opportunity, right? And they're going to give you a giant bag of flaming shit and see if you buy it. And if you don't buy it, you're dead. You may as well just fucking move to the back of the line. But if you buy it, they're like, okay, well, this dude's not a clown. He understands the game. And then they're going to give you a second bag of shit that's larger. And then they'll start to bleed you some good stuff with that. And that's how you build your relationship and you move on. I mean, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I have 100 grand, what do you have? I'm guessing chances are they're going to be closer to, well, I only want the good stuff, fuck the bad stuff. So you're just wasting your time. Because until you're in it and you realize you have to take the good with the bad and you have the right mindset, it's tough for people to understand.
Okay, so I've used your program. I'm still using your program. I've used Rudy's. I did try to get into Pop Marts, but his was like full at the time. And I've used some other people. I'll definitely say, to your credit, yours is the best for me, 100%, because I think you're like very fair with your pricing. It's not market. It's definitely not MSRP. Some things are like more magic, but it's in between for sure. And there's enough margin left on the bone. So we're like, I can buy some and I can put it on my store. So I definitely like the way you're doing your Discord and your program.
Yeah. I actually had somebody reach out in Discord. I think it was yesterday. And they said, why don't you just sell stuff directly to retail and keep all the profit for yourself? And, my response was, first of all, that there has to be enough meat on the bone for everybody to go around. Right. And that's the only way you're going to build these large sales channels long term. There has to be enough meat on the bone for everybody involved, because at the end of the day, I don't want to just sell 1,000 boxes or 2,000 boxes. The next step is you get to 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. You're going to have to expand those sales channels, and you're going to have to sell through multiple different transaction types. And the only way to do that is to do what I'm doing now. I mean, if I'm ripping everybody's face off with prices, the second things tighten up, you're screwed.
100%. I remember for this last sale for TCG, you supplied some things to TCG, right?
Yeah, we did Outlaws of Thunder Junction boxes. We did Silver Tempest ETBs, and we did Paldean Fates displays, booster bundle displays.
Ooh, what was your experience with that? Because I don't know anything about TCGs besides put my $1 on there.
Generally speaking, based on the price of the item, it's going to determine what your audience is. So if I'm selling singles at $1, $2, I'm going to have all kinds of issues and people saying the envelopes never showed up and this and that. And generally speaking, that could be correct, but you tend to have people that are trying to, steal 50 cents $1 from you, which it is what it is, right? That middle ground, I didn't have a single person complain about the 650 Outlaws of Thunder Junction boxes that we sold for $100. Nobody complained about the Silver Tempest ETBs at $85. The $900 Paldean Fates booster bundles was a little bit of a thought experiment, because you're dealing with a much higher dollar amount, even though it was a pretty sizable discount to market, because distro just dumped a bunch. I think we had 2 people that complained about the condition, which is fine. Just return it for full refund and whatever. And we haven't gotten either one of them back yet. I mean, I'm sure we're going to at some point in time. It's interesting because some folks are, it's a good deal if there's a little ding or whatever. And by the way, I inspected them all myself and they were all pristine, but that's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, if you're a buyer and you complain, you don't have to prove anything, which it's one of the negatives with TCG players. You can't rate the buyer. There's only a rating on the seller. With eBay, you have it's bidirectional, right? Like you know who's buying, what their rating is. Now they have the ratings behind the scenes, but you don't get to see them. But I think one of the interesting things in the market, and this, I think this is part of what bled into the issue, unless they were just trying to screw me over, which is what it is. I think there's a new breed of collector that they're looking for like the perfect case, right? The perfect cardboard case, and they want it to look pristine, and that's just not the way the world works. Like the whole reason why things are wrapped in cardboard is to protect the boxes on the inside. not to look pretty on the outside. I know there's a lot of folks in our Discord where they'll get something shipped from one of the cheaper stores who just slaps a label on the outside and they complain about it. Well, up until recently, that was perfect. Nobody cared about that. Now, I wouldn't do that because I'd be afraid somebody would steal it, but that's a different conversation.
That's valid. That's very valid.
But, it's ultimately just a selling store, just trying to save a couple bucks on cardboard. But it's interesting now that there's not just the case premium, but there's a premium on a pretty case. It's interesting.
Yeah, because I've got a couple cases from people and then like the booster boxes, and I'll put them on my site. The very first person, there was the smallest, like itty bitty dot hole, and they complained. And so from that day forward, if it has a little hole or tear, I always email them. I'm like, hey, just so you know, I have to give you 5% off, or I have to give you $5 off, or whatever it is for the item because there's a tiny hole. Do you still want to proceed? Because that was really annoying to deal with.
Well, and the worst part about it is when I'm ripping master cases and pulling the bundles out, I mean, it's a luck of the draw, right? It is what it is. Sometimes there are like some little holes from stretching the plastic in manufacturing. So yeah, I've started to put on our side, and I've had no issues in the Anon site with anybody complaining about anything, because I think we do a nice job of making sure the product shows up at or better than what's expected. But it's even, there may be some minor flaws. I had one the other day where the corner was dropped and I didn't see it. So I reached out and the same thing and said, look, if you're interested, I'll give you $100 off. And they're like, yeah, I'll take the $100 off. I was going to rip it anyway. I'm like, oh shit, I wish I wouldn't have offered that. No, I'm kidding.
Is there levels to this game from what you've learned? You've been in the game a lot longer than me. Have you seen levels to this, or things you learn from distro and like owning the store? Do you learn, oh wow, that's the next layer of knowledge, and something like that exists?
I think as you grow, when you start, you're going to have a junior rep, right? And your junior rep, they're getting information secondhand. A lot of them are super motivated to improve. A lot of them don't give a shit, right? It's no different than any other job. But as you start to grow, I just had one of my reps left, and I was in like no man's land for forever. And my new rep is a senior rep there. So now I have a whole layer of insight that I didn't have previously. So I think as you work your way up and you deal with more and more senior reps, these are folks that are seasoned. They know kind of the lay of the land, and they can get some information that some of the other reps didn't have, if you will. But getting back to the tip from before, when I said don't quit your day job, you're not going to kick off a lot of cash. There have been a couple of folks in Discord that are like, hey, do a video on what starting an LGS looks like. And it's going to be like one page that says just don't fucking do it. Because if you think about it, you got to pay rent. You got to pay probably at least one employee. Your fixed costs, worst case, are $5,000 a month. And that's if you're in podunk nowhere. I mean, if you're in like New York City, downtown Virginia, DC, like wherever, you're probably paying $5,000 to $10,000 of rent, depending.
That's a lot. Insurance.
Your base insurance on collectibles, which is even more crazy because most insurance companies won't cover them now, is you're probably looking at $6,000-7,000. I mean, you're probably $100,000 of fixed cost all in. Now, assume in a normal world, you're at 10% margin. Right? Today's world, we're obviously much higher than that, but in a normal world, 10% margin blended across the board is pretty decent. So you got to do $1 million of sales just to cover your fixed costs. That's before you pay yourself a penny. Ooh. $1 million of sales is a lot of fucking product to move. And you're dealing with a store where you have people coming in, theft, all kinds of crazy shit. Until you get to $1.5 million of sales, you're going backwards. And then just think about all the cash that you have to spend on buying inventory. I mean, that first nut of inventory where you're buying a box or a case of every single set, for Sword and Shield, Mega, Scarlet Violet, which is pretty much what people are going to expect. Now, maybe not every set in Sword and Shield, but then you got to do it the same. You got to do it for the last 3 years of Magic sets too. I mean, you're dropping $100,000 of product. An acquaintance of mine who just opened a store, and he's trying to be everything to everyone. And yeah, love the guy to death, but like you can't do board games and TCGs, and like you're literally going to kill yourself because there's not enough time in the day. So you have to be good at something and you have to scale it. But I mean, unless you're selling shit online in addition to the LGS and just using the LGS as a means to an end, which is to grow your distribution, it's just a job, and you're just gonna muddle. There's just no way to get ahead because the games aren't going to help you. I mean, Magic's going to do nothing but try to steal your money. Bandai's going to tell you that you have to spend 9 months marketing their game before they give you much of anything. And Pokemon, you'll get as much as you want when you can't sell it.
When nobody wants to buy it, you can have it.
And then you have all the indie games, or you have your Lorcanas, your Star Wars, where, I mean, everybody's just gotten screwed on it. I mean, Lorcana, there's been no money in that for a year and a half. The distro price on those boxes is like $93. I mean, they're selling online for 100.
They put on Amazon for cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. So the more narrow that your scope is, the more likely you are to be successful. Pokemon, Magic, One Piece now, and maybe pick another game, and that's it. And if somebody comes in and they're like, hey, can I get a box of Union Arena? Say absolutely, and just send them to a website like TCG Player where they can buy it.
What do you think of One Piece? Do you think that's going to be a flash in the pan, or is it going to sustain for a while?
You know, it's interesting. So OP13 was our first larger allocation, and that was an order I had to place back in February, March of 2025. And it was right after Gamma, where I met with the Bandai folks. Their entire presentation was, we will not overprint, because all Bandai games forever, they've killed them by overprinting. So I was a little hesitant because, you know, Bandai's going to Bandai. That was just kind of the common assumption, but they've done a really nice job keeping the print runs limited. And all that does is turbocharge the amount of demand as we're seeing now. So I think it's legit. I think it's here for now, at least. You know, if they get greedy and they overprint it, they could stab themselves in the foot or stub a toe or something. But right now, it's, you know, sky's the limit.
Is there anything else you would like to tell people?
Yeah, I do. And this is a really, really interesting market where prices are really, really high and a little toppy. I would say don't formulate your buy-sell decision on what the market looks like today. Take a look at what you think it's going to look like 6 months down the road, a year down the road. Specifically with Pokemon, take a look at when the sets rotate out. I mean, Mega 1, Mega 2 at these prices would scare the shit out of me if I had to sell it in the next year or two.
Yeah.
If I didn't have to sell it for the next couple of years, you know, it's not so bad. But if you're telling yourself you're going to sit here and hold it for 5 years, assume you mean 5 months, in which case, you know, I'm not buying anything at $300 a box right now. At least that's in print.
That's fair. So not Destined Rivals for $400?
So Destined Rivals doesn't rotate out until April of 2028. It's not even 2026.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so Prismatic Evolutions has the shortest in-print time, and then you have Journey and Destin right after it, which is the longest. Just the way that the year falls. Because remember, all the set blocks rotate out in March, April. So yeah, we have not gotten any booster box reprint of Destined. We've seen a lot of sleeve boosters. For whatever reason, we've seen a lot of build and battle. I'm assuming they're coming from overseas somewhere. But I continue to get sleeve cases in, but no booster box cases. So they're coming at some point. I mean, we saw what they did with Surging. You know, they smashed it 3 or 4 times, and everybody joked about how little the reprint was, but it had the intended impact. I mean, the box price is stagnated for a year now. It's going to happen for Destin, and I hope it does. You know, I think what's interesting is there's a little bit of a stigma for prices going down. If the sets don't get reprinted, I'm okay with that because I get my distribution price, I get my margin, and everybody's happy because, you know, you get your product with plenty of meat on the bone. If the sets get reprinted and the prices get smashed, I can build a position, I can accumulate more, and I can sell to you and whomever in the Discord at $120, $150 a box. Whatever the price is at that point in time, you're able to build a position and be in a better position going forward. So either way, there's a clear path to be profitable here. I don't really give a shit if they reprint or not. The only reason I share the information is what I'm being told by folks that aren't in distribution that, you know, probably know a little bit more. And that way, you know, folks don't spend 10 grand on a set. And next thing you know, it's selling for 5 grand. You know, that's not a good feeling.
That's not a good feeling at all.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you have for us?
No, I think that's it, man.
Well, thank you so much, Anon. This is definitely one of the best I've had, and I've been really excited for this. So thank you so much for joining me, brother.
Yeah, no, appreciate the time. Sorry for having to delay it a couple times, but it was good. Looking forward to seeing the comments.
Thank you. Make sure y'all like and subscribe to Anon TCG. Link in the description below.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Later.